Hi, everyone. I'm Terry Crosby from In Care of Relationships. I'm a life and relationship coach. And I often say that I help people who love each other get along. It's really joyful work. And if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a partnership work. I have three suggestions for you today. I want to say this before we dive in that relationship advice doesn't have to be groundbreaking to be effective. It can be something that we know, but execution is everything. So I think a couple of the suggestions I have today might fall into that category, that it might be something that we know, but we must really understand it through and through. And so I hope today's discussion will help with that. All right, three suggestions. There are many things that make a partnership work, but here are three, and they're really key. All right, number one, make progress. Change is guaranteed, progress is not. Have you thought about that? Yeah. Change in relationship, there's all kinds of changes. There are career change happens. That's guaranteed. Progress is optional. Change means, like change of location, career changes, home changes, changes at work, babies are born, living circumstances change. Maybe all of a sudden there's a blended household. If you have a new partner, a blended family, your mother moves in, your mother-in-law moves in, somebody that, or your father, the person you're taking care, that suddenly needs care. And so your whole household changes as a result. There's another, what would you say, another item on your radar suddenly. All right. So change is guaranteed. If you stay with someone for a while, even a few years, there can be a whole lot of changes. All right. However, progress progress is up to you. It's totally up to you. Change is not so much up to you. Things happen, but progress is entirely up to you. So changes can be life-giving, but they can also be very challenging. They require us to use the best we've got to get through them. And then I believe, I believe, and just for good measure, there's this thing that happens because of a change where the change says to us, how about a little more? Can you do a little more? So just for good measure, we have to add to that collection, that pot called the best of us, because the challenge is asking us to do more. Okay, so here's an example. A client of mine got a second chance. She and her husband were married for many years, and things fell apart, and they separated for about a year. And so when I met them, they were just coming off that year, and they had decided to get back together. And they decided to get back together and give it another go. So how did that go? I'm going to read you something. This is my book called How to Save Your Fourth Marriage. And this is at the end of the book. And so this is what happened. This couple had a fresh chance to rekindle their connection. So what this has to do with is that change is guaranteed and progress is not. So just keep that in mind. Okay. This couple had a fresh chance to rekindle their connection, but they soon realized that a new start does not guarantee a positive outcome. This can be confusing. She felt disappointed and disheartened, even a little betrayed. That was key. Even a little betrayed that things got good, but didn't stay good. It's not uncommon to think we can wrap the old package with a new paper and a fresh bow and assume the contents are transformed. You know, at the beginning when they got together, it was all fresh and they hadn't been together. So it was kind of unique and special. And they both tried really hard and they both were more open than when they were together in the past. And so it started out good, but it didn't stay good. Their joy and hope created a powerful, positive stream of activity, but eventually they invoked familiar habits and pulled their old trouble right back to them. So on the plus side, the work that we did together helped them realize that, those problem spots, patterns, negative patterns, they didn't need to dictate that those patterns could be choice points. They didn't need to dictate the future of things. It was more like a reminder to look at that place and see what to do about it. So I said, a second chance beseeches us to track down the old ways and unlearn them. Lucky for us, our brains are perfectly suited for overhauls. All right, so a secret to progress is to keep learning new skills. You may not know, in case you don't know my history, I've been married 4 times. And I did what many of us do. I kept looking for the right partner or looking to make my partner the right partner. And by that, I mean, I tried to change him. I tried to improve him. Yeah, sorry. Rather than becoming the right partner. So that's what happened. And finally, I learned on number 4. So when things didn't work in the past, I would just get a new husband. I'm not kidding about that. New boyfriend, new husband, just change them. And so I kept changing men, but in each relationship, my role, as it turns out, doesn't have to be, but this is what I did. My role was to show up as the same person I was in the last marriage and expect a better result. Okay, that's what I did. Oops. So what changed in my 4th marriage, because it started to tank, it started to fall down around my knees. It crashed and burned one Sunday morning in sunny Southern California. The whole story of that is in this book. It's the story I start out with. Then and only then, when my marriage started to fall apart, did I realize that the issue was really me making personal progress. All right. So I decided to learn some new skills. And one new skill that I learned was one that I just call simply clearing the slate. It was so shocking to me that my 4th marriage was falling apart that what it actually forced me to do, this can be a choice too, but in that case, it forced me to start over with a beginner's mind. What happened to me that morning is I kind of felt like, gosh, if I can't make this one work, I don't know anything. I must not know anything. And so I gave myself the great benefit of erasing what I thought I knew, what I was sure of, what I hoped was true. I just erased it all. Okay. And one of the things that I erased, and I didn't even realize it until much later, was blame. I erased blame. It's a big one. We'll talk about that another time, but when something didn't, so what changed was when something didn't work, I looked to myself for the solution, not to my husband. I didn't do that thing where I was trying to fix him. I didn't give up on him. I asked him to stay. And so I didn't trade him in. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this book is all about, is what I actually did about that. So number one suggestion to make a partnership work is go for progress. And remember that change is guaranteed, progress is not. Progress is up to you. Progress is optional. Keep learning new skills. That's what creates progress. You can learn something new, or you can give up something that's not working. Either one works. Both are progress. All right. Number two. This one I call better out than in. It's a saying that Eric and I had in our marriage. He passed away, for those of you who don't know. He passed away 7 years ago, and from cancer. And so we had a saying in our marriage after it fell down and then it got back up again. After it started working, because I decided to take responsibility for making changes. Eric and I would say that to each other, better out than in. And what it means basically is talk about stuff. Don't keep stuff inside. So rather than stuffing things like emotions or something that happened or any kind of extras, waste, irritants, emotional, physical, whatever, and rather than stuffing them into your being, either process them, integrate them, or release them. So this means better out than in means that when someone is upset, let them talk. Not only let them talk, but encourage them to talk. Don't push against them. That's what we do so often. We want to kind of shove it back into them and pretend it never happened, or we want to. So that's one thing. It's just, no, I can't face that. That's too much. Take it back. So we push against them. But what it really is, I've experienced this myself. What pushing back against someone is about, it's a survival thing. It's an instinctual reaction. And so to make a partnership work, we have to evolve past survival instincts. It's almost like, oh my gosh, you can't say that to me, I might die. It's really like that. It's I'm going to save myself, and by not hearing you. It's what we do. So if I do that, what if I push back, what will happen is that my partner will have to defend himself. So it starts this, attack, defend thing, which is very instinctual. So don't make them, what I'm saying here is don't make them defend themselves or push to get their concerns heard. It's probably already a big deal that they brought it up. And so don't make them defend themselves. Do this whether it's a friend, a child, or your partner. So asking questions, here's the thing. Asking questions helps everybody loosen their grip on a reaction or opinion. It does. It helps them loosen their grip. It helps you loosen your grip on your own opinion. It helps your partner loosen. If they have the freedom to say something and explore. So say things like, these are key phrases. Say things like, and what else? Or is there anything else? Or is there anything else you'd like to say that you think I might not know? Essentially say to them, tell me more. That's what you're asking them. It's like, come on, tell me. And so the idea is to be like a reporter gathering facts. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying, but you're actually asking for so many details that you could be a reporter and you could write a full story about the incident later. That's how much information you have. You have the background, you have what they wish, you have their opinions about what you have, everything. So you have enough to write a good story. Recently I was reading Elizabeth Gilbert's book called The Signature of All Things. It's a great book. And it was set in the 1800s. And the way they said, tell me more back then at the dining room table was do go on. I love that. I love that phrase. All right. So that's number 2. So number 3 is practice. So you've got the first 2. Make progress. And the second one is better out than in, encourage self-expression, encourage talking. And the third one is practice self-inquiry. So what in the heck is self-inquiry? All right. Basically, it means that to improve any partnership, start with yourself. That's what it means. Self-inquiry. It's the part you can control. It's the part you're in charge of. Byron Katie says, I love how she describes this. She says that if I'm in your business, then who's in my business? Nobody. Nobody's at the helm. Nobody's taking care of the homepage of my life. She doesn't say that, but I do. So she encourages everyone to be in their own business. And so when you're in your own business, that's one way of practicing self-inquiry. So here's another way to be in your own business and practice self-inquiry. And this is huge. This is such an important thing. It has to do with understanding our perceptions. So I made this little thing. I hope you can see it. Actually, I'm going to put it in front of the microphone here. No? Okay, I'll try back here. It's better with the light. So what it means is that everything starts with my perceptions. Perceptions, which is how we think about something, how we interpret something, guides conclusions, which guides outcomes. Okay? If you're not happy with your outcomes, go back to your perceptions and investigate them, inquire about them, question them. What this says is that, so notice your perceptions and question them, because what happens isn't as significant as how we interpret what happens. Another way to say that is that the stories we tell write the outcomes and reinforce them in the future. So let me get specific. Let's say that I have a certain work ethic. This is what you should get done in a day. This is how many hours you should work. This is what you should get done. And I see you working in my company. And in my opinion, you're not measuring up. Okay. I think, gosh, you're being lazy. You're not trying hard enough. And I don't like the outcome because that makes me upset. So here we go back to this thing. My perception is I have a certain work ethic and you didn't fulfill it. My conclusion is there's something lacking in you. That's my judgment. And the outcome is that I'm not getting what I want. And I'm upset about it. All right. So what I can do is I can go back to the beginning and I can examine my perception about it, is what I'm saying. The perception, what is the proper work ethic, led me to the conclusion that you're lazy, and then it led me to being upset and dissatisfied. I didn't get what I wanted. So that's that whole story. Or let's say I have perceptions about what is careful or reasonable. And based on my perception, I decide you're careless, and then I dismiss you and I write you off. And let's say, theoretically, that I do this sort of thing with many people I meet. I object to them based on my perceptions. And according to me, they are not good enough in some way. Okay, so that's the picture. So guess what? People notice when they're not okay with me. They don't want to hang around somebody who thinks they're not good enough about something. So the outcome of all of this, because of my judgments and my conclusions, is that I end up with not very many friends and I'm alone on holidays. So to protect myself, so this is the pattern, to protect myself from being responsible for this outcome, if I don't like the outcome, what we often do is we make somebody else the problem other than ourselves. We don't go back to our perception. We just decide it's their fault. Pardon me. So to protect myself for being responsible for the outcome, I make you or a particular person or this town to be the problem because I can't make friends in this town. I decide that this town is unfriendly. I'm innocent. It's the town's fault. All right. So in doing that, if I do that, if I make it someone else's issue, the outcome is going to stay the same, exactly the same, which is what I did in my first 3 marriages. I'm speaking of something I know. I have much experience with this. So let's see. So all I'm saying in this third one is that it doesn't have to be this way. If I go back to the beginning and I question things, if I change my perception, I come to a different conclusion or find out new information, which changes my perception. Then I come to a different conclusion, which produces a new outcome. So perhaps I find out in each of these cases that there's more to the story. I find out that the person I thought was careless was distracted by something that suddenly took priority in their life. Maybe their child was visiting a friend, fell off the top bunk, went to the hospital, got a neck brace, couldn't move very much, needed a lot of help, needed medical visits. I didn't know. And in my limited thinking, rather than asking, I came to the conclusion that they were careless. Maybe the person I thought was lazy just got a diagnosis either for themselves, for someone they love, and now they're under the covers trying to figure out how to navigate life with this new diagnosis. The person I judged for short-sightedness, they didn't have enough money to do what they really wanted to do, so they had to take a path they didn't really prefer. It was not actually a real choice on their part, but I thought it was. More information. Maybe I judged somebody for lack of commitment because they wouldn't do something at work that I asked them to do. I asked them to give a presentation or a speech, and they said no. And so I thought, well, they don't care. But actually what I found out is they have some trauma around public speaking. And, in each case, here's what's true. In each case, each person did their best, but it didn't match my idea of what should have happened. And so the outcome was unpleasant for me and another person. So outcomes depend on my perceptions and the conclusions I come to. So in summary, these three, and as I said, there are many, many things that make a partnership work. And one of the things I love so much is that those things that make a partnership work are unique to each partnership. I pick these 3 because they're general enough to apply to most partnerships, but the unique things that make any one individual partnership work, they're really, there's a huge variety. And so, what is a stretch for one couple works perfectly for another couple, it's like that. So in summary, number 1, make progress. Change is guaranteed. Progress is up to you. Number 2, better out than in. Don't push an upset back into the person who is upset. It's not helpful. Draw it out of them like a long ribbon. Just help them get rid of it. They don't want it either. And number 3, practice self-inquiry. Every great relationship starts with investigating our perceptions and which lead to our conclusions, which leads to an outcome. So if we don't like the outcome, go back to the beginning and investigate our perceptions. Yeah. So here's a quote by Gangaji that I want to say just in closing. she says, she's one of the best teachers about this subject. Inquiry is not an abstract spiritual practice. It is living your life fully, consciously. Then your whole intelligence is available for discovering what is the right way for you to live. And so if you want to know more about self-inquiry, Gangaji is Gang, how do you spell her name? Gangaji. Go to gangaji.org. She has many videos. One that I saw, which I haven't actually read yet, but I'm going to, it was about self-inquiry, and it involved a conversation with a war veteran. It took place in 2011. And the article, so this whole event, this interview, if you will, was written out, and it's in an article called The Pearl Within Your Emotions, Part 2, Self-Inquiry, A Way of Living. So if you want to know more about self-inquiry, look up Gangaji. All right. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for considering this information. Thanks for whatever you apply and try. I appreciate that very much. It makes the world a better place. If you need assistance from me, my contact information is here on the site, and I would love to help you if you need some assistance. All right. And I'll see you in the next show. Thank you for sharing this show. And I'll see you next time. In the meantime, take very, very, very good care of yourself. Thank you.